It looks like it's going. Let people join. I'll tweet this out. Just send this out a couple places. Bear with me. How's everyone enjoying the Masters in November? Curious what the ratings will be like tomorrow. If we're being honest, just with football and everything, because March, April, I'm always pumped. But now it's just, I'll watch it, but I'd rather watch football, to be honest. Tested my loyalties. But looking good so far. I got some DJ money out there, so unless he chokes, which he's known to do, should be good to go. Could use some ROM to bounce back, some Kepka to really charge tomorrow, Xander, and then maybe like Cam Smith falling back. That'd be good. Let me just tweet this out a couple places here. Bear with me, and we'll get started. Football. Let's send it here. I mean, Augusta still looks beautiful. Looks the same. Couldn't even tell. Plus the weather. I mean, besides it raining Thursday, I mean, it's been real nice. So it does not look like the normal what we would think the fall would look like. Let's see. Send it out here. Send it out. I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do this. I just don't know. So I apologize. And that's probably good. All right, thanks everybody for waiting on me there. Going here, War Room After Dark, episode 9. Talked a little Masters there. If anyone in the chat, who you rooting for, what you think is going to happen, do you have any outrights on it? We can touch on that at the end a little bit here. But I'm at Not Duck Hodges on Twitter. Give me a follow. We'll go through about I'll probably say 6 or 7 games here. Just go through some football tomorrow and just kind of see what people think. I think it's a pretty cool schedule, and I'm assuming it's intentional with the Masters tomorrow. They put 5 games on from noon to 3 Central Time, and then 6 games 3 to 6 or whatever. So they have a pretty good even spread. I wish they would do this more often, because then, from gambling DFS perspective, after we have an early slate, 5 games, an afternoon slate, 6 games. Usually it's like 10 games and 3 games, and I don't even play afternoon slates at that point because it's just a crapshoot. Might as well be playing Showdown. But here, just kind of an even split, pretty exciting. And I don't know. It seems like all the good games are in the afternoon. I would really like to know if that part was intentional, but good on the NFL for doing something smart here, because it's going to be pretty fun to watch. Building lineups for NFL in the morning while watching the Masters, and then probably watching the Masters and just following on my phone, seeing how these morning games are doing, the early games, and then going in the afternoon when you get the marquee matchups. It's going to be pretty cool. But we have a couple weather-related games in the early going here. I think it's the only 2 that I'd be really concerned about. But there are ones I was on early, so it kind of sucks. But we have the Houston Texans at Cleveland Browns. That the game total was at 54. I think it's now at 46, and I think it's going lower. And then Jaguars at Packers started out at 53, and that's down to like 47 or something like that. So Vegas has slashed a touchdown on each of these games. And if you remember from, I think, 2 weeks ago, we had like 3 or 4 games, and you'd see a lot of people in the industry talking about, they don't care about weather because people tend to freak out, and the ownership, you just get good ownership leverage. Well, that blew up in anyone's faces. I was saying play people in bad weather. It just didn't work out for any of those games. Cleveland was in one. I forget the other games, but I think Cleveland and the Raiders, like, what was the final score, like 13-9 or something ridiculous? Like, long story short, I'm not touching the passing games for either of these teams, and I probably wouldn't even go with the defenses, to be honest, just because I think both teams would be smart to keep it on the ground. Less obviously, you can't get sacks if you hand the ball off. You can't get interceptions. Fumbles are random. So I'm not going to bet on that. So even though the Packers are 14 at home against a woeful Jaguars team, probably wouldn't play them. They're probably the only defense that's legitimate. But um, I would not play. I would not play in tournaments and cash on DFS. I would not play anyone from the Texans, Browns, Jaguars, or Packers that's involved in the passing game, which sucks because that's I liked both of these games quite a bit and thought they were good pivots just 24 hours ago. So after this, I'll probably be remaking some lineups, trying to think through this. But if you're playing like the only or the early slate game, I mean, 2 of the 5 games are out from passing. So it's kind of changed my perspective on what to play there. It should be interesting tomorrow just to look at the ownership. Oh, by the way, feel free to get your any start sit DFS questions, fantasy questions, gambling, golf, whatever, life lessons. Send them in through the chat. We'll answer them as we kind of get here through the end. But I still liked both the rushing attacks. Let's start with Texans and Browns. I liked them both. Nothing changed there, so that's nice. With Texans, we have Duke Johnson, who will get a lot of dump offs, which could be even more valuable in a high wind game. And then hopefully he's getting the 15 carries. We'll see. He's never really done that before. He did last week, but that's because they weren't prepared for David Johnson to get the concussion. So we'll see. I know they called up somebody, and they have CJ Procise, and there's rumblings that it could be more of a split, and that's always seemed to be the case when people fall in love with Duke Johnson. He just breaks our hearts. But I'm all in. He's $5,000. Browns, Nick Chubb's back. You can play Hunt. I think he's probably pretty good tournament play. I might put him back in the pool, but I still like Chubb, even though I think he only has like 5 targets on the year, something ridiculous. I think you just gashed this Texans defense, which is just horrible. But like I said, I'm hands off. I think I'm going to be completely hands off in the passing attacks. But I did love Watson, Cooks, Fuller. Loved Higgins as a low-owned pivot. That there's a lot of people in Higgins' range that people would play, and they weren't going to go to Higgins. That's out the window for me now. I'm not going to get too cute. So yeah, and then Jaguars, Packers. Really like this spot too. Still do. You can play both James Robinson and Aaron Jones. Unfortunately, now I'm probably going to be off Shark, off Adams, which I thought were good pairings with the inverse of the running games there, and even Rodgers I thought could be good. And Jair Alexander's out for the Packers, their best corner, emerging shutdown corner. If you heard me on here, I've been pretty high on him. I think Shark was set to go loose, and now, like I said, just start the running attacks. Now, there's going to be someone who catches a couple touchdowns and they get there. I just can't guess who that's going to be. If you're going to take a shot, maybe guess on someone lower owned, like a Keelan Cole, Chris Conley for the Jaguars. They're like 3,000. Alan Lazard, I believe, is back, and I think he's like 4.5K. You can do that, and if you get a goose egg or if it's a slog, then you can still do it. But I'm going to try to avoid the Sharks and the Adams, who I was really high on. So before we move to like the marquee games in the afternoon, if you're playing the early slates, which I always recommend, whether it's cash, tournaments, mixture of both, I like to play the full week slate Thursday night through Monday night, the main slate early, and then if there's enough games the afternoon, simply because it gets you fall in love with these players as you start researching or reading about their matchups. If when you get these hybrid slates, then you don't just fall in love with the chalk that fails or who you're really high on that fails. You can mix and match and things like that. And so it's a good way to hedge. I've had a lot of success there. So even if I'm gung-ho on Josh Allen in the afternoon, I can't play him with the early only slates, so if he falls on his face, I still have a chance there. So some of my best weeks have been that way. So something to think about. But what I was getting to, with only 5 games on the main slate, and 2 of them in the early slate, and 2 with a high wind. I think the game is going to be Bucks and Panthers. I was already pretty high on Brady. It's just tough to figure out who he's going to pass it to. You can make an argument for any of the 3 run or wide receivers, and also Gronk. They're all a little thin. I'd probably go Antonio Brown, Godwin, Gronk, Evans, but now that I'll probably be opening up a little bit, I don't know. And on the inverse, Carlton Davis on defense, I think, is questionable. I read somewhere that they're leaning that he might be playing, but whoever he shadows, I'll take the other main pass catcher. I think a lot of people will chase Curtis Samuel. I was off of him. We'll see when I start rebuilding these lineups if I end up on him, because I'm going to have to play a lot of this game. But I would prefer like DJ Moore if he's on Robbie Anderson the most. And if he's out, then Robbie DJ. And then obviously Mike Davis, which is funny, on the main slate is $4,000. He's just, for me, a lock and load cash, obviously. Then tournaments, I'll probably play a shit ton of them to get over the field. He'll probably be 40% owned. I'll probably play 80%, 75% just to be over the field. He just makes too much value. The fortunate news is on Thursday night through Monday night and the early slates, they have a different price for him, which is 6.7K. And in that matchup, the Buccaneers are a great defense. This was a game I was going to kind of shy away from until the weather concerns. Now I'm kind of forced to play it. Don't feel happy about it. But Mike Davis, he could get, even if he got 20 points, which is a lot, he doesn't necessarily just smash at his 6.8K on all the other slates, and at 4K if he gets 15. If he gets 20, I mean, he's just crushing it. So Mike Davis, lock and load, main slate. Every other one, I won't be playing him. But this would probably, and I might have to get on Fournette. I mean, the Panthers' rush D is so bad. Just, it's going to be a 50-50 time split. You don't really know what's going to happen. So I'll probably be on Fournette just a little bit. Have to force myself to get on there, and he's only like 50 or 5,000. So it's something to think about. The other 2 games, we'll just touch on briefly, just because we've touched on 3 of the 5, and 2 I was like, you can't touch their pass games, which opens a lot up, because for quarterbacks, I don't want to play Wentz or Jones, and I don't want to play Alex Smith or Stafford. I believe Stafford's back. That's tough. So I don't know what I'll be doing with like my DraftKings quarterback. It'll be a lot of Tom Brady, and then who knows. But both of these are right around like 45 team totals. Detroit's indoors, so maybe the advantage is there. I like the running backs for both. They're just like Swift and Gibson, but they're in a timeshare, and people play McKissick. I'm off McKissick just because he never scores touchdowns. He might get you 15 points, but I don't think he's ever going to get you 25 plus. He just doesn't get in the end zone. Gibson might. McLaurin's obviously a really great play. People might be scared of him, especially with this win in these other games. McLaurin might be one of my locks for cash, and then big ownership in tournaments. Eagles, Giants. Love the Eagles. The Giants were kind of a sneaky D for me for a little bit, but I think with all the skill position people getting healthy, at least Wentz could try to avoid the sacks. So probably just be off the Giants, maybe accepts a little bit of Ingram. But Goddard is probably my favorite cash game tight end, and then probably have to play some Rager now that I'm crossing off these other ones. And then Miles Sanders is in a great spot. Some risk there, and Boston Scott should still be involved. They'll probably ease them in a little bit, but enough with these shitty early games. Let's talk about a couple of the afternoon games, and there's 6. I won't go through every single one. I will say seems like a lot of people are really excited about Devontae Parker. That to me is just a trap. Yes, with Preston Williams being out, he should see a couple more targets, but he's also playing or going to be covered by, I forget his name. It's not King because he just got traded. But the cornerback for the Chargers, he um, he should be shadowing Parker, and I still don't trust Tua. He bounced back last week admirably, but I'd make him do it again before I really go there. So a lot of people are going to be on Parker. To me, that's probably just a trap. I don't care how many targets he gets. If he's covered by Hayward, that's his name. It's just difficult. So Fulgham, Matt, he's priced at like 6,000 on DraftKings. If you're playing him in fantasy, yes, he's really shown it. But I believe Jeffrey's going to be back, plus Rager. Um, Whoever Bradbury covers is the one I don't want to play, and it's you're kind of in a conundrum because a smart coach, I would think, would probably shadow Bradbury with Fulgham because he's demonstrated the most upside. I think, Alshon's, but this would be his first game back, so one, he'd be eased into it. Two, he's not in shape. Three, he's dust in my opinion. He's over the hill. He gets hurt a lot. I mean, his best years are behind him. So by name, you would think Bradbury on Alshon, and then Fulgham and Rager would feast. If you were Judge, you were smart, you might put him on Fulgham. So that's why I went with Rager. I just don't see where they would they put Bradbury on the rookie in this instance, but I could be wrong. But Fulgham's worth the risk. It's just now with these people back, and like I said, with Jeffrey with his namesake. Thoughts on PS5 versus Xbox Series X? 100% Xbox. The PS5 is burning, like not blowing up, like in a good way. It's burning. It's burning up. So, Mr. Hochschild, I suggest you get an Xbox, download Rocket League, and we can play some games. You'll have a great time, I promise. So some of the afternoon games, the two biggest total games would be Bills at Cardinals at around 56, and I think that's actually going up, and then Seahawks at Rams, which is at 55. These are the two marquee games for DFS, and I don't think you can play enough people. It's just a matter of narrowing it down. For Cardinals, we have some injury news at running back. If Drake plays, they're probably both, he and Edmonds are both hands off. It sounds like he's 50-50. If Drake doesn't play, then Edmonds is probably one of the best plays on the slate. So I don't know how I feel, which way to go. I'll just take the news and go with it. I'll be playing a lot of Edmonds, but I kind of hope he doesn't, or Drake does play, just to get me off that, because then it narrows it down because in the Cardinals, Kyler's always in play, and you can play him by himself. But I'd probably focus on Kirk, just because Hopkins is going to be shadowed by Tre'Davious White. And we saw Tre'Davious White on Metcalf last week, and Metcalf did just fine. I think he had 6 catches for 99 yards. But Hopkins is the type of guy, he just runs those like slants and out routes, and I just think White can cover him a little bit more. It's with his price, just a tough sledding for him. So I would prefer something like that and just kind of narrow my target distribution there. And then for the Bills, we don't even have to worry about the running back position, since they're like in a 50-50 split. So I would go with like Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, obviously great play. John Brown did great last week. Still toying with the idea of Gabriel Davis. I don't know. Which is some of the other games in the early slate closing down, I might put Gabriel Davis back in there as like a dart, especially if like in the Millie Maker or something like that. But I mean, I think you have some narrow paths to scoring in this game. It's the highest scoring game on the slate. Whereas as we get to here, the Seahawks and Rams, there's a lot more mouths to feed. It's going to be just as good, most likely, but which one to pick, and they're all expensive. So Bills and Cardinals to me is my favorite. But going to that Seahawks and Rams one, 55 total, like I said. Vegas thinks this will be a shootout. Let's go to the let's go. Everyone knows just to attack Seattle, especially through the air. Goff, to me, I don't know if I could get there in cash with the value at running back, but he'll probably be a tournament play for me. But Woods and Cup, just flip a coin, to be honest. Both are going to be good, and I think both will probably play just fine. The YOLO, probably one of my favorite cheap plays would be Josh Reynolds, their third wide receiver, who's played really well. Granted, it was with Higbee out of the lineup. I believe Higbee's going to be back, but I think they're starting to realize their best package on offense is to have the 3 wide receiver set in, and Reynolds is doing great. I think he's 35 or 3,400 on DraftKings, so I don't know if I could get there in cash, especially with all the other value, but Reynolds will definitely be in a lot of my lineups, and he could be the one that gets you there. The running backs still have a good matchup. I'm waiting to see. I think Henderson's questionable, which is a shame. Henderson and Drake being questionable in the afternoon poses something interesting we'll touch on briefly, because if you're playing you're playing a flex. If you have an option, put your afternoon guy in the flex spot, because then with late swap, if you get news that Henderson's out or Drake's out or they're in, you can pivot and play based on that. It's sometimes tough, and I know a lot of people just want to set their lineups and forget it. I understand that. You got shit to do. You just want to watch the games and enjoy. But I would say here I am going to make a very concerted effort to put in my flex someone in the afternoon, because I will try to swap. For instance, if Henderson's out, I think Malcolm Brown's a great play, one of probably the best plays on the slate. I think Adams is playing for Seattle. Matt, let me check real quick while I'm doing this, though. Actually, I know he is. The funny thing, though, what's it, Dunbar and Griffith, they're both out. So both their cornerbacks are out. Adams is, if you've been watching the Seahawks, he's kind of like their joker. He rushes, he tries to sack, but he also is really good at shutting down the tight end, which I have no interest in with Higbee and Everett sharing anyway that time. So he'll shut them down. He'll go after the quarterback. So with the corners, both their top 2 corners, which is a joke anyway, because they're really not that good. That just opens it up for the Rams. So I'll probably in every lineup try to have a Ram. Like I said, I like Woods, Cup, and Reynolds. There's 3 there, so it makes sense to just put one in. I have 20 lineups, just get 33% of each or something like that, and mix and match, double them up. Obviously, you don't have to be an idiot and just play one of them. Play Cup and Woods, be unique, and then bring it back with maybe a David Moore. He's also on my list because one of the low-owned ones. DK should be. This is where it gets tough. DK should be shadowed by Ramsey, but I've been hearing that kind of does what he wants, in the sense that he kind of dictates how he wants to play, and their defense has just been playing great. So he might cover Lockett, and I've been touting Lockett for the last 2 weeks, and he's fallen on his face. So I'm just making an excuse to sit DK, but that would be it. And then Lockett's still a great play. I'm just going to assume he'll finally get there. I mean, this is going to be a great game. The only nuance to this one, I'm more high on the Bills Cardinals game, because I'm pretty certain that's like the top tier for me, in the sense that it's like the Seahawks versus Falcons versus Cowboys, Seahawks versus Cowboys, whatever those games were. The Bills and the Cardinals, I'm pretty certain it's going to get there. I could see an avenue with this being at home for the Rams, which doesn't really matter with no fans, but not stopping the Seahawks, but slowing them down enough, which puts this game in a little bit of a risk. So I just put it like at a tier 2. It's one of those games that you could see either going under or where like the Seahawks just don't do their job. Especially like Russ has been just kind of turnover prone, making some bad plays. It's very interesting seeing him do that, especially with no pressure. But I would say when constructing some tournament lineups, I will definitely have some in mind where it's more Rams centric. I am in on the Rams scoring because either way, I think the Rams score whether the defense shows up and stops them, or if the Seahawks just score, the Rams are going to have to follow suit or at least try to do it in garbage time. So I'm high on the Rams. Just the Seahawks, they're so expensive. It's just a little bit of a risk. So that there could be some money won there if you avoid some Seahawks or just don't go as heavy. But I don't think you can really play anybody out of the backfield. I know Carson's out, Hyde's out again. But we saw last week DJ got there, but he fell into the end zone. And I got lucky because I played DJ like an idiot. But he was like he shared the snaps with Collins and Homer. It was like everyone got a third. So I'm not playing them. Henderson maybe Henderson maybe if he plays, I don't know. Makes me uneasy now that he's a little banged up. But if he's out, Brown definitely. Let me see. We got the Ravens at Patriots Sunday night. That's gross. Vikings at Bears Monday night. Gross. Thursday night was kind of gross too. I didn't really play anyone there, which thankfully didn't. That was probably the right move. I'm trying to see if there's any other in the afternoons. If someone has any questions, get them in. Because I'm not really sure. I think the Bengals Steelers have a little bit of injury problems there. It's the same thing. You could play Juju, Deontay Claypool on the other side, Boyd, Green, T. Higgins. It's just tough. And then obviously Gio's in play. Some people will go back to Connor after he failed last week. So that's a pretty interesting game. You got the Saints versus the Niners. Just play the Saints D. Let's just move on from there. But yeah, I'm not really interested in talking about Sunday night, Monday night games. I'll probably run the rare times. Maybe I'll play Ryan Nall from the Bears. I think he's going to be the starting running back, and he can catch out of the backfield from what I hear. With my limited knowledge of him, it's him and like Cordell Patterson. So would probably play some Nall for like a just kind of different salary saver, even though we have plenty on these main slates. But I guess you're off Cook for the Vikings. Where's he playing? Oh yeah, Monday night. No, you could play him. You can always play him. Especially the Bears are a little bit weak against the run. The way that's kind of planned out, Matt. Yeah, that makes sense. So I might have spoken too soon there. You might have talked me into that, especially because with the Ravens, it looks like it's Gus and Dobbins. I like them both, but I just don't know which one. And one's going to fall in the end zone. Both might do decent, but I don't think you need either one, especially tournaments. Cook, he's had 2 big games in a row. Maybe that'd be the only argument is, can you do it 3 times? Yes, he can. But maybe this is just so low scoring. It's at Chicago. I don't know though. I haven't looked at that weather report to be honest, Matt. So maybe there's bad weather there since it's hitting Green Bay. It's hitting Cleveland. It's probably hitting Chicago. I just don't know if it's sticking around too long. But you can kind of see how the chalk builds are going this week. It's going to be Mike Davis. It's going to be Duke Johnson, might be Aaron Jones, then the Bills and Seahawks, Cardinals, and with the Rams, like wide receivers, and then one of those QBs going with them. So you can kind of see how the chalk one is. On main slate, a lot of people are talking about avoiding Davis and it just makes you unique, and I understand that. I just think at 4,000 at Davis, even getting, I don't know, 3 catches, 30 yards. There's 6 points, and he's going to get part of the running game. Just tough for him to fail. He could get hurt. You never know. I don't want him to, but it could happen. You don't know what's going to happen there. So there's always a case to be made. But I would try to go unique elsewhere, to be honest. I do think Duke. I thought there was more danger for Duke before I started the feed tonight, because with the wind, I don't want to pivot to the passing game. I think Duke is, as long as he might get replaced when they're trying to run the ball, which could be frustrating. But if you're going different, don't do like a Davis and Duke and then the top 2 games that I talked about, because that's what everyone's going to do. Maybe not even Davis and Gio. I don't know if Gio will be popular playing against the Steelers. He's cheap. He's down there at 5,000. I'll probably play him, but I'm an idiot, and I like playing once these starting running backs get hurt. Like I said, Davis is just too cheap. I'm not gonna not play him. Gio's kind of the same. He went down in price because they assumed Mixon would be back, so I'm gonna play him. They're just good values, and Gio gets all of his value from catching the ball anyway. So I don't really care if they can stop him on the run. Get him like 5 catches, 50 yards, maybe he falls in the end zone. Okay, I'm happy. But yeah, maybe if you're trying to pivot off, and like you can pivot off to those lower price pass catchers like the Reynolds, the Kirks, the David Moores, John Browns, maybe the Gabriel Davises, if you want to do that. Other than that, my favorite games probably be Bucks at Panthers now, which still makes me nervous because the Bucks have a good defense. And then I don't know, like I'm really not on the Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, Dolphins, Bengals, Steelers. I have to check the weather there. That could be hit hard too. But that could be a good one to kind of try to get in there. So that might be one of my favorite ones besides the Bucks. I guess if I'm not guessing there, then I'd play at the Lions just because they're in a dome. Not excited about it, but at least they're in a dome. I don't have to worry about weather. Let's see here. Gibson and Davis. I don't blame you on Gibson. I think we talked about that. Cook, Davis. Yeah, no, that you're hopefully you have some good wide receivers too, because yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, the only thing with the footballs is they're for some reason giving McKissick so much, but whatever. I think I saw that McKissick's only had 4 touchdowns in his career in the last like 5 years, and like 2 came in one game, maybe 3 came in one game. That's why everyone knows who he is, because he won people money 1 week, which is nice. But I don't think he's going to catch it, and everyone's just got this stupid narrative that Alex Smith is going to check down and not throw it to McLaurin, and Gibson won't be in play for some reason. So everyone thinks it's going to be McKissick. So yeah, I like Gibson a lot there. But let's see. If there are no other questions, we'll get out of here. But thanks for tuning in. Once again, my name is not Duck Hodges on Twitter. Give me a follow, goingfor2.com. Thanks for letting me get on here, spout some random shit. I would also add, as a caveat before we go, check the weather in the morning. This is kind of my stance right now. I don't think it's going to change, but it is the weather. Something could happen. And if it drastically changes, you're going to be on top of it, because most people have already made their lineups or are making them right now. If for some magical reason the wind is leaving Cleveland before the game starts, get back on there. You could make some money gambling, go take the overs, things like that, and then DFS. But once again, thank you. Good luck.